first of all, it was a very slow session, only about $3.5 billion worth of stock being traded on the ASX. And that's typical of a Monday, not a Thursday. So very light volumes, and really what dominated trade were three stories. One was Santos and the takeover bid there, so the energy sector doing well. The second was Wesfarmers and the quarterly numbers coming out for the consumer staples area there. And third, of course, was late in the session where we saw Commonwealth Bank announcing that it will raise its standard variable rate by 0.15%. So that had a positive impact on the banking space and a massive reaction in terms of the Aussie dollar. Just bringing up the Aussie dollar because this is quite a big reaction for the Aussie. You can see as soon as Commonwealth Bank came out with its announcement, the Aussie dollar dropped, and that's because expectations around the Reserve interest rate meeting in November. So expectations are rising now that we will see a rate cut on Melbourne Cup Day, and that's really why we are seeing the Aussie dollar coming under pressure there. Outside of those three, there were some stellar performances. In fact, a couple of stocks reaching all-time record highs, which I think are worth a mention. One is Collins Food, which owns the KFC and operates KFC throughout Australia. That stock's actually up 58% in the year to date. And the other is Nick Scali, also reaching an all-time record high. This stock's up by 42% in the year to date. On the flip side, we did see some all-time record lows as well. The lowest price that Dick Smith has ever seen on the exchange was hit today. Same with Seven West Media, seeing the lowest price ever hit today. So a bit of a mixed session, a quiet session, but certainly some big stories dominating the session today.
Yeah, Martin, I think it was thanks, or at least those who do hike.
Absolutely. You only have to have a look at the share price movements of the big four banks over the past week. And of course, you know, Westpac was the first mover there, rising by 0.2%, the most so far. And Westpac's share price is up 2.5% in the past week. Commonwealth Bank is the second, raising by 0.15%, and that's up by 1.3% in the past week. Now NAB's up by 1%. It has a 5.52% standard variable rate, and ANZ, which has the lowest standard variable rate of 5.49%, has had the smallest share price appreciation in the past week, up by 0.1%. So I guess the banks are very sensitive, and in the short term it is a positive. In the medium to longer term, you have to look at how competitive the banks will be in acquiring new loans and acquiring new business. So it's a more murkier picture and a harder picture to justify medium to long term, but certainly short term it has a positive impact in terms of profitability and in terms of margin. So just having a look at the standard variable rate, CBA is now at 5.6%. Westpac is slightly higher at 5.62%, and then you have NAB down at 5.52%, and ANZ is actually the lowest at the moment at 5.49%.
By the board of Santos, what do you think they'd be hoping to get in order to actually give a recommendation?
Look, I'd be happy around the current oil prices to see a price around $8 to $8.50. I think it's really hard to justify it without seeing a greater jump in terms of the oil price. But of course it is opportunistic because it is based on the premise that we have seen Santos' share price more than halve over the last few months. So Santos very much in play, and I think that this does signal the lows that we've seen in terms of energy stock prices. We may continue to see weakness in terms of the oil price, but the fact that we are seeing now hunters hunting around the energy space and seeing some deep value here probably indicates that we have seen the low in terms of the energy sector on the Australian share market. In combination with that lower Australian dollar, we are expecting to see more corporate activity coming through. So the M&A activity that's taking place at the moment, and the potential M&A activity, I think signals an exciting time for the energy space. And that's why I think you didn't just see Santos' share price jumping today. You saw gains all across the energy space, from Woodside Petroleum to Origin Energy, and that's despite the oil price falling by 2.4% overnight. So I think that's a positive signal for the whole energy space.
Gotta love a bit of an M&A, don't you, Mike?